Welcome back, Pauls. Let's see if Nancy is finding her father. Let's go straightly into the chapter. It's chapter 14, an urgent message. Excellent, Captain Rosland said after Nancy had told her story. He smiled. The way you are building up clues, if you were on my force, I would recommend a citation for you. The young sleuth smiled and thanked him. I must find my father, she said earnestly. I'll call Captain McGinnis of the River Heights force at once, the officer told her. Why don't you sit down here and wait? It shouldn't take long for them to get information from Aiken's used car lot. Nancy agreed and took a chair in a corner of the captain's office. Presently, he called to her. I have your answer, Miss Drew. She jumped up and went over to his desk. The officer told her that Captain McGinnis in River Heights had been most cooperative. He had sent 2 men at once to Aiken's used car lot. They had just returned with a report. Day before yesterday, an athletic-looking man with a crinky ear came there and purchased a car. He showed a driver license stating that he was Samuel Greenman from Huntsville. Nancy was excited over the information. Then it will be easy to pick him up, won't it? She asked. I'm afraid not, Captain Rosland replied. McGinnis learned from the Huntsville police that although Greensman is supposed to live at the address he gave, he is reported to have been out of town for some time. Then no one knows where he is. Not any of his neighbors. The officers was reported that Samuel Greenman was a person of questionable character. He was wanted on a couple of robbery charges and police in several states has been alerted to be on the lookout for him. Well, if the man I saw at the car is Samuel Greenman, then maybe he is hiding in this area. Captain Rosland smiled. Are you going to suggest next that he is the ghost at Twin Elms? Who knows? Nancy countered. In any case, Captain Rosland said, your idea that he may be hiding out around here is a good one. Nancy was about to ask the officer another question when his phone rang. A moment later, he said, It's for you, Miss Drew. The girl detective picked up the receiver and said, Hello. The caller was Helen Corning and her voice sounded frantic. Oh, Nancy, something dreadful has happened here. You must come home at once. What it is, Nancy cried out, but Helen had already put down the instrument at her end. Nancy told Captain Rosland of the urgent request and said she must leave at once. Let me know if you need the police, the officer called after her. Thank you, I will. Nancy drove to Twin Elms as fast as the law allowed. As she pulled up in front of the house, she was startled to see a doctor car there. Someone has been taken ill. Helen met her friend at the front door. Nancy, she said in a whisper, Miss Flora may have a heart attack. How terrible, Nancy said shocked. Tell me all about it. Dr. Morrison wants Miss Flora to go to the hospital right away, but she refuses. She says she won't leave here. Helen said that the physician was still upstairs attending her great-grandmother. When did she become ill? Nancy asked. Did something in particular bring on the attack? Helen nodded. Yes, it was very frightening. Miss Flora, Aunt Rosemary and I were in the kitchen talking about supper. They wanted to have a special dish to surprise you because they knew you were dreadfully upset. That was sweet of them, Nancy remarked. Please go on, Helen. Miss Flora became rather tired and Aunt Rosemary suggested that she go upstairs and lie down. She had just started up the stairway when for some unknown reason she turned to look back. There in the parlor stood a man. A caller? Nancy questioned. Oh no, Helen replied. Miss Flora said he was an ugly, horrible-looking person. He was unshaven and his hair was kind of long. Do you think he was the ghost? Nancy inquired. Miss Flora thought so. Well, she didn't scream. You know she is really terribly brave. She just decided to go down and meet him herself. And then, what do you think? I could guess any number of things, Nancy replied. What had happened? Helen said that when Mrs. Turnbull had reached the parlor, no one was in it, and there was no secret door open. What did Miss Flora do then? Nancy asked. She fainted. At this moment, a tall, slender, grey-haired man carrying a physician bag walked down the stair to the front hall. Helen introduced Nancy to him, then asked about the patient. Well, fortunately, Miss Flora is going to be all right, said Miss Dr. Morrison. She is an amazing woman. With complete rest and nothing more to worry her, I believe she will be all right. In fact, she may be able to be up for short periods by this time tomorrow. Oh, I am so relieved, said Helen. I am terribly fond of my great-grandmother and I don't want anything to happen to her. The physician smiled. I'll do all I can, but you people will have to help. How can we do that? Nancy asked quickly. The physician said that no one was to talk about the ghost. Miss Flora says that she saw a man in the parlor and that he must have come in by some secret entrance. Now you know, as well as I do, that such a thing is not plausible. But the man couldn't have entered his house any other way, Helen told him quickly. Every window and door on his first floor is kept locked. The doctor raised his eyebrows. You had heard of hallucinations? He asked. Nancy and Helen frowned but remained silent. They were sure that Miss Flora had not had an hallucination. If she had said there was a man in the parlor, then one would have been there. Call me if you need me before tomorrow morning, the doctor said as he moved towards the front door. Otherwise, I'll drop in some time before 12. After the medicus left, the two girls exchanged glances. Nancy said, Are you game to search the parlor again? You bet I am, Helen responded. Shall we start now or wait until after supper? Although Nancy was eager to begin at once, she thought that first she should go upstairs and extend her sympathy to Miss Flora. She also felt that a delay in serving her supper while the search went on might upset the ill women. Helen offered to go into the kitchen at once and start preparing the meal. Nancy nodded and went up the steps. Miss Flora had been put to a bed in her daughter's room to avoid any further scares from the ghost who seemed to operate in the elderly women's own room. Miss Flora, I'm so sorry you have to stay in the bed, said Nancy, walking up and smiling at the patient. Well, I am too, Mrs. Turnbull replied, and I think it's a lot of nonsense. Everybody faints once in a while. If you'd ever seen what I did, that's horrible face. Mother, pleaded Aunt Rosemary, who was seated in a chair on the other side of the bed. You know what the doctor said? Oh, these doctors, her mother said pathetically. Anyway, Nancy, I'm sure I saw the ghost. Now you just look for a man who hasn't shaved in goodness, knows how long and has an ugly face and kind of longish hair. It was on the tip of Nancy's tongue to ask for the information on the man's height and size, but recalling the doctor's warning, she said nothing about this. Instead, she smiled and taking one of Miss Flora's hands in her own said, Let's not talk any more about this until you are up and well. Then I'll put you on the Drew and Company Detective Squad. The amusing remark made the elderly woman smile and she promised to try get some rest. But first I wanted to something to eat, she demanded. Do you think you girls can manage alone? I would like Rosemary to stay here with me. Of course we can manage and we'll bring you exactly what you should have to eat. Nancy went downstairs and set up a tray for Miss Flora. On it was a cup of steaming chicken bouillon, a thin slice of well-toasted bread, and a saucer of plain gelatin. A few minutes later, Helen took another tray upstairs with a more sustainable meal on it for Aunt Rosemary. Then the two girls sat down in the dining room to have their own supper. After finishing it, they quickly washed and dried all the dishes, then started for the parlor. Where do you think we should look? Helen whispered. During the past half an hour, Nancy had been going over in her mind what spot in the parlor they might have overlooked, one which would have possibly have an opening behind it. She had decided on a large cabinet built into the wall. It contained a beautiful collection of figurines, sovereigns from many places and knickknacks of various kinds. I am going to look for a hidden spring that may move the cabinet away from the wall, Nancy told Helen in a low voice. For the first time, she noticed that each of the figurines' knickknacks were set in small depressions on the shelves. Nancy wondered excitedly if this has been done so that the figurines would not fall over in case and cabinets were moved. Eagerly, she began to look on the back wall of the interior of the cabinet for a spring. She and Helen together searched every inch of the upper part but found no spring to move the great built piece of furniture. On the lower part of the cabinet were two doors which Nancy had already opened many times, but then she had been looking for a large opening. Now she was hoping to locate a tiny spring or movable panel. Helen searched the left side while Nancy took the right. Suddenly her pulse quickened in anticipation. She had felt a spot slightly higher than the rest. Nancy ran her fingers back and forth across the area, which was about half an inch high and 3 inches long. It may conceal something, she thought, and pushed gently against the wood. Nancy felt a vibration in the whole cabinet. Helen, I've found something, she whispered ferociously. Better stand back. Nancy pressed harder. This time the right side of the cabinet began to move forward. Nancy jumped up from her knees and stood back with Helen. Slowly, very slowly, one end of the cabinet began to move into the parlor, the other into an open space behind it. Helen grabbed Nancy's hand in fright. What were they going to find in the secret passageway? Does someone already know the secret entrance? Let's stay tuned for the next chapter, guys. Have a happy day.